Well, hello again and welcome back to my YouTube channel as we continue to explore more interesting off-road motorcycles here in my world of classic dirt bikes. Now in this feature clip we'll be taking a brief look at what was an iconic European classic back in its day. So let's check out the Spanish 1974 Ossa Phantom 250 Mark II. Now of course straight away we can see that this bike is certainly not a show winning concourse example of one of these 1974 classic, and it's surely not a complete and original bike. But this is just a bike I stumbled across while I was visiting an owner to check out a few other interesting machines he had in his dirt bike collection, and this particular bike was parked in a corner of his workshop covered in dust. Now these 1974 Ossa Phantom 250s were of course Ossa's answer to Honda's 1974 iconic 250 Elsinore, which of course was also released the very same year. Now the Ossa name of course is an abbreviation from its then founder Manuel Giro, who originally formed Orfeo Synchronic Sociedad Anónima, which produced movie camera equipment in the early 1920s. And so Giro then used the acronym Ossa when he went into the motorcycle production business. Now the Phantom's power plant was a normally aspirated two-stroke piston port 250 motor with a bore of 72mm and a stroke of 60mm. Now the engine also had a 5-speed gearbox with a wet multi-plate clutch that was of course gear driven rather than the traditional layout of being driven by a primary chain. Now the ignition was a Motoplat electronic CDI unit, and the bike also had this 36mm Bing carburetor to supply it with fuel. Now the engine reputedly kicked out about 33 horsepower, and the complete motorcycle only weighed in at around 198 pounds, which was at least 15 pounds less than its rival, the 250 Honda Elsinore, which was the best-selling 250 of 1974. But make no mistake, this 250 Ossa Stiletto motor was a very powerful little power plant and certainly had the edge over the Elsinore, as the Elsie had all its grunt mid-range, whereby the Phantom had it where it counted at the top end. Now of course these 1974 Phantoms were still using these drum brakes on the front and rear of their motorcycles. Now the fuel tanks of course on these bikes were made of fiberglass, and they looked superb when the paintwork is in good condition, although as you can see our example is in need of a bit of renovation, and also has one of its tank badges missing on the other side. Now the Phantoms also had these very comfortable seats fitted to these bikes. These were very comfortable bikes to ride on the track with these very plush fitting seats, and this bike still sports its original seat from back in 1974. Now of course also in 1974 these Phantoms would have been fitted with a pair of beater rear shocks, but as you can see in our particular case the original shocks are now long gone on this bike. Now, although this is a rather scruffy example of one of these 1974 Phantom machines, nevertheless this bike still retains many of the original parts from 1974. The engine complete is all original from that period, and it's just things like the replacement mudguards, etc., that are not original from 1974. Now, the little Phantom, of course, had this underslung snake-like thin wall exhaust system with that quite unique silencer tailpipe at the rear. Although, of course, in our particular example, it looks like this has been replaced with another version at one time or another. Now, of course, if this was an original machine from 1974, it would have had a pair of mudguards painted in the same livery and colour as the fuel tank, with that lovely blue and orange livery. But it looks like the previous owner of this bike has substituted these for these much cheaper items to do this particular job. Now, in the past, many famous riders slung their legs over these little 250 Phantoms, and names including John DeSoto, Barry Higgins and Dick Mann were all very quick and were factory riders for Ossa between 1971 and 1974. Now, these Ossa Phantoms had a good reputation for their quality of the build, and their fasteners, all used in the construction, were always top quality, and nylon lock nuts were used on each and every bolt. But nevertheless, although our particular barn find example of this very quick little 250 Ossa is maybe not the best example to show you, it's still good to see that there are still a few examples of this model still in existence. Now, the early 250 Phantoms from 1974 had the alloy swing arm, although as you can see our particular example is one of the later 1974 Phantoms with the chrome moly steel swing arm fitted. But these bikes could still outturn machines better than its rival, the mighty Honda Elsinore, and the Phantom was reputed to be about 33 brake horsepower, although it was a little bit more expensive to buy at $1,350 in 1974, which was slightly more than the Elsinore, which was retailing for about $1,100 during that year. So there you have it, an iconic machine from the 1970s. That's the Ossa Phantom 250 Mark II from 1974. Now remember, there are similar machines to this Phantom 250 already in the pipeline and soon to be aired on my YouTube channel. So please continue to subscribe to my channel if you like what you see, and please leave any comments on this particular video in the description box below. And once again, thank you for watching.